Hey fellow farmers, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Vintage Story, Episode 7, My Little Farm. What I do right at the start of the stream is going to be entirely up to you guys, so here is said poll. We could, and I'm going to explain, so there's no rush to vote, let me explain these. So a major factor in Vintage Story for progress is getting linen and flax production. So agriculture is the first goal. In order to make windmills, which is required to run things like helve hammers, pulverizers, and to make querns manageable. Quern is like grinding up grain or ore bits or whatever. You need windmills, and in order to get windmills, you need a lot of flax. In order to get flax, you need to plant flax, to get the linen to get the windmills. So number one is agriculture for the windmills and the like. There's also the advantage of getting bees for beekeeping. So managing bees, honey is used in making jams, and then the beeswax is used to make candles, which is the source of light that you usually use. And then fertilizer, I could start trying to make my own compost, because I have not had a lot of luck finding really farmable soil. But we could also start setting up our own farm. Number two, building. Just, building a shelter, expanding storage organization, that kind of thing. Number three is starting on leather. So there are two types of leather in the game. There is hides and there's leather. Hides is used in some basic armor smithing and clothing, but leather is sort of the end game. Leather takes a very long time to make in game. You need to lime wash it, which means you need lime or borax. Then you need to run it through weak and then strong tannin, and that takes a lot of in-game time. It takes I'm going to make up a time, but it takes roughly an in-game week, which is kind of a lot of time. So initially we'll probably go for some basic armors, but then want to start ramping up leatherworking at some point. One of the things I wanted to do at the start of the stream is to do a charcoal run, because in order to use metals, you need some sort of high burn temperature fuel, like charcoal, anthracite, brown coal, black coal, something like that. It's not exactly fun to make your own charcoal. It takes a long time, a lot of effort, but it's absolutely 100% necessary. With that said, if I did a large run of charcoal, I would probably break my axe in cutting all the firewood, so I would probably need other metal tools to help with that. And then mining and prospecting, now that I'm about to get a prospecting stick pick. So it looks like you guys want me to prioritize agriculture. So even though the poll's not over, I think that's what I'm going to start working on. And I think what I'm going to do is I am going to cut my losses here, looking for terra preta, which is the really high value fertilizer, and start collecting medium fertility soil, which is the stuff I have in my hand here, and just farm on it. Medium fertility soil paired with fertilizer is often good enough. At least, if it's not good enough, it'll have to make do. Because I can't afford to go looking for amazing fertile soil, because the amount of time it would take me to find enough of it, maybe we could have done a full run of crops. So my goal, let me update this, is start a farm and search for bees. I want to do both. So I will resolve this poll a little early. One thing I did between the last stream and the current stream is I have my XYZ chords right underneath my minimap. And it will also show the direction I'm facing. So west, north, east, south. Oh, this is peat. Okay. Oh yeah, I had it marked down on my map. So I'm probably not going to find a lot of bees out in an open plain. Bees are going to be in trees for the most part. But at the very least, I will start collecting medium fertility soil and transplanting it over my land bridge base. So the idea that I have is that I want to lay out my farm so that they can eventually become greenhouses once I have access to some lovely glass. So this is sort of like a two-part job where I want to start farming immediately because it's in-game, it is May. You can check the time by /time. It's May, but like, once I round the corner to like, let's say October-ish, it's going to start to get too cold to grow a lot of the stuff that I rely upon growing, and having a greenhouse will extend the growing period and also protect the crops. That's another thing is wild animals will absolutely eat your crops if you don't keep it fenced up and walled up. You will lose your crops to like bunnies and the like. All right, I am completely going in the wrong direction, looking for medium soil. Low quality soil everywhere. The other thing I need to figure out is what crops I'm going to be farming. So that gets a little complicated. There's essentially 3 types of, well, okay, that's not exactly true. But there's crops rely on 3 types of nutrients in the soil. Nitrogen, what is it? PK, kalium. So that would be potassium. And why am I blanking? P, K, and N. P. What would phosphate? Yeah. So why I mentioned that is like flax is a K crop. It will sap K from the soils, which means that it's best to rotate your crops so that the soil can be replenished. So sort of the way it works is your crops, when you plant them, they will need to be watered, either by relying upon rainwater or like a watering bucket, or to be within proximity of liquid water. So if you're within 3 tiles of standing water, that will help water your crops. And then the other thing that you're going to need is fertilizer. And finding fertilizer might take me a while. You can also make your own fertilizer. You can make compost. Compost is sort of a universal fertilizer. All the other fertilizers in the game will only replenish one type of, or for the 1 or 2 types of the nutrients to the soil, whereas compost is a little tricky to make yourself. You need barrels, which would, in my case, mean I would need an anvil and an ingot of metal, and then to make a saw blade in order to make barrels. But the TLDR is, it would be ultimately a really good goal for me to work on, is to get composting going, because that will allow me to start to have more rich soil nutrients. Because at the moment, unless I find Terra Petra, I'm going to be relying upon this medium fertility soil, which isn't bad, but Terra Petra is 30% better than the medium fertility soil. Another thing I should do is start marking down what kind of traders these are. I really should have done it. So this is a Lux trader. Because at some point I might want to like return back to do trading, and it's every trader will have a different inventory. The different types of traders will have different inventories. Oh, hello. And ouch. Can you not throw rocks at me? Thanks. So having to mark down is pretty helpful. So yeah, so circling back to what I was saying, we definitely need to grow on flax, because flax is the most important crop to grow in mass, in my opinion, because that allows you to get linen and twine and things like that, which is you're heavily reliant upon for a lot of things. But then we have to figure out the other crops, and it also is region dependent. So here is a good example. Spelt has a heat resistant up to 40 Celsius, has a cold resistance down to -5. It grows in 18 days. It consumes nitrogen in the soil and requires nitrogen, right? So if I plant this, it will deplete nitrogen out of the soil over the course of 18 days. Whereas flax is K, and it depletes 50. Well, I'm just going to call it kalium because it starts with K. And then rye is an N. So, like, if I had to pick between rye has a much lower cold resistance. So rye would be really good to transition as a crop sort of later in the summer. Whereas spelt, they're both like wheat seeds, right? Spelt is way more heat resistant. So if you plant something that is not heat resistant, like let's say I planted rye, on warm days the crops are going to overheat, and then I'm going to get less yield from them. So that's another thing to consider is it matters like what you plant, because if you plant something that your environment can't support, you will get a much lower yield. Why I'm calling it kalium is the K in potassium is kalium from German. So I'm not just like saying kalium and making things up. Potassium was originally called kalium. So that's why it's K. That's why I'm calling it kalium. Just so it's easier, because you see nutrient K and I call it kalium. You know, I know it is potassium. All right. So what I need to do, what time is it in game? It's about midnight. Let's go to sleep. So tomorrow morning, I should be on the lookout for seeds, and then I want to lay out where I want my farm over in my temporary base. So do a bit of both. So fully matured crops will always guarantee you seeds and some yield. And then these like partially matured crops you can dig up for partial yield. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start digging up crops that I want to grow, even if it's not a guaranteed yield. So like right here is mature flax. So I dig this up. I'm going to get some flax fibers, a flax seed, and then flax grain. Flax grain could be made into porridges or ground into flour and made into bread. And then the flax fibers are made into twine, which is eventually made into fabrics. And then the seeds, obviously, I plant. And I also might want to redesign the layout of my base already. I kind of went in like half-cocked, not really ready to put a good layout in. So that's another thing that I'm going to probably end up doing as well. But what's really honestly most important is that I just start putting crops down, because player-sown crops have a much higher yield than wild crops. So the sooner I start farming, the better, in my opinion. All right. Well, so here's the thing. Where should I farm? So here's some constraints to think about. Most animals won't be able to hop over a dry stone fence. So dry stone fences are going to, and it sounds like the music is a little loud. Most dry stone fences are going to be fine, except for, of course, when it like clips like this, right? Because then they could fit through here and fall over. So I want it in a spot where like wild animals, like bunnies, aren't going to eat my stuff. And I might actually have it sort of elevated. I think what I'll end up doing for this patio is turn that into like leather smithing or pit kilns or something like that, and not actually do agriculture on the base level, because keeping your crops sort of raised is going to be advantageous. And then I think I'll go with like a 7 by... I'm trying to think whether I want to do 5x5 farms or 7x7 farms. I think I'll do a 2 5x5 farms. So what I'll do here is I'll plan for this to be my thoroughfare, and to start the farm here, where eventually what will happen, and you'll just have to envision this, eventually what I'll have is I'll have a wall where the greenhouse is, and I can do this in dirt, because dirt's pretty cheap, and there will be a door to the greenhouse, and the greenhouse will go out here. So the farm will start here, and go out, and then there is no real gravity in this game unless you turn it on. There is a gravity mode where dirt and like dirt, sand, that kind of stuff will fall instead of float, and you can have like landslides, and you can be trapped underground as a result. It's kind of like a hardcore plus mode, if you will. But I don't have that on. I'm on just standard difficulty, so I don't really have to worry about things floating. So the idea here is to put water in the middle, and then this is my, like, very simple 5x5 farm. And what I'll do is, symmetrically, I will have a farm identical on the other side. I just think, initially, I'm not likely to have enough seeds to even warrant 2 farms right now. So with the rest of the dirt, and this will eventually be turned to like stone or some other more attractive building material, I'm just going to have as like a simple wall. Because animals aren't going to be able to be nimble or agile enough to get at my stuff. Because they don't jump this far. Bunnies jump like 1 across, not whatever that is, 3 or 4. So here's where I'll start farming. And then all that means is I need to put a source of water here. Is that going to be too low? No, I mean, I fit under it, but it's not comfortable. So what I might want to end up doing is raising the whole farm up 1 tile. And then having the void here instead. And then I'll just throw together like a little flint or stone hoe so that I can rake out the soils. The other constraint, of course, is that without a bucket, I'm not going to be able to put water in there. So I would be reliant upon like a clay-fired watering can. So because I'm not racing for a copper anvil necessarily, I'll have you guys poll on that. Should I settle for a copper anvil or wait for bronze? And I'll explain the benefits of both. So a copper anvil would be relatively cheap for me to source right now, because I have a lot of sources of copper. I have a pick and I have a hammer. So that would allow me to make saw blades, and it would allow me to do like a wood bucket and other wood plank stuff earlier on. I do know where some tin is, but there's no guarantee that the tin I know of is enough tin to actually make an anvil. So an anvil requires 900 units of, if I was to do a bronze anvil, requires 900 units of metal. 9/10 of that metal will be copper. So it's probable that I'll have enough tin from the tin vein that I know of to be able to make a bronze anvil. But there's another reason, not necessarily to make a bronze anvil really early on, which is that a lot of materials, like quartz, for instance, which is how you make glass, requires bronze pick. And then, of course, bronze is a much better armor and weapon material to use than copper. Copper is pretty trash tier for armor and weapons, and is best to be avoided if possible. So my point being, if I spend all my bronze on an anvil and don't have bronze left over, I might be screwing myself just a little bit. But either way, you're free to vote. So let's make a little. I used up my shovel too, so I'm going to do a shovel head first, and then I will do the hoe. And this is just granite, so I didn't even find. I'm not even bother to find proper stones for it. I don't really care, especially on the hoe, because I'm not going to be doing using it a lot. Oh right, yep, there we are. And I'm holding left alt to make it a little bit easier so that the camera doesn't move around as I nap. And yoink. Bye-bye last stone. I have plenty of sticks, that's good. Okay. So then, oh, I just found some loose flint. So after I get this all raked out, I'm gonna go make a watering can and fire it in a pit kiln. Because these soils are very dry, and if I don't have an anvil to be able to make a saw blade, I'm not going to be able to fill this middle tile with water, which means I need to water it manually, which is fine, because in this area, rainfall is uncommon. Okay. Uncommon's not great. That was another point that I was going to make, is trying to find Terra Petra, which is the really nice fertile soil. The higher the rainfall and the warmer the tile, the more common it is. And because I'm in an uncommon rain area, I'm probably not going to find Terra Petra around here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just start planting. It doesn't even really matter if it's watered or not. It will still grow, just very slowly. And once I get a watering can, I can speed that growth up quite a bit. And I think there was actually blue clay right over here. Although I do believe I have blue clay back home. But yeah, there's a blue clay deposit like right here on the land bridge. We'll grab a little bit of that for the watering can. Hey, Dag. Thank you for the resub. And Will and Nabla, too. Oops. That's my torch. So, here's a raw watering can. Because it looks like you guys want me to, wait for a bronze anvil, which means, I'm not going to have a saw blade. It's probably most players, when they first get access to, steel and the like, they probably make a saw blade first, because saw blades allow you to cut up stumps, logs, and the like. And what is going on here? I can't place. Oh, I was on duplicate. Duh. It allows you to cut up the stumps and the like to automatically make planks, which is super useful. So I think what I'll do is I will plant... Oh, out of clay. I'll plant flax, spelt, and then I'm probably going to want to find, like, turnips and onions. Turnips are better for cold weather, and I'm not in cold weather, so I'm probably going to want to do onions. But wild onions are a little bit harder to find in my experience. But that will be my variety of crops, is, like, spelt, flax, and raw onion. Or onion, rather. Okay. That is done. Can you exploit water physics for an irrigation system? Yeah. So any soil that is adjacent to water gets irrigated 75%. The thing is, if I'm eventually going to be making a greenhouse, I don't necessarily want to put all of my... I don't want like half of my topsoil to be... just water tiles, because then half of the greenhouse is essentially wasted. It's just a design idea. Like, you could do it either way. There's not really a penalty for having a greenhouse that's mostly water. It's just a lot of glass and, material investment for not a lot of food. But if you absolutely hate... Oh, well, also it's raining right now, so, like, the farm fields that I already sown are getting irrigated. So, that's nice. But yeah, without mods, there's no, like, true irrigation. There's no, like, sprinkler system. They probably existed mods, but I'm not running any. Alright, let's fire this bad boy up. I just happen to have everything needing to fire this thing on my person, which is nice. Yeah, and once you go greenhouse, you're probably going to have to hand water it anyway. Unless you do, like, half of... You know what I could do is, should I have all farm plots have water adjacency? So moisture in the soil allows for crops to grow quicker. But with that said, it saves me a bit of manual labor if I have all the farm plots with moisture adjacency. It definitely will help me not to be saddled with like constantly watering the crops, because I can just be like, oh, 75% is enough. I don't need to go for the full, for the full 100% and just suffer a small penalty to crop sowing speed. And that would free me up from having to regularly water my own crops as like a daily maintenance type thing to do. So I can see it from both ways, and I'll have you guys can let me know. Let's make some porridge. I'm going to make rye grain porridge with red currants. Can I place water tiles under the greenhouse? So water will irrigate adjacently, but not vertically. So it can't be vertical, in other words. But you can put the water like right outside of the greenhouse, around its perimeter, to water it that way. That would work. That would be like a kind of a cheesy way to do it. And cheesy in a good way, I suppose. Hey, look, we have enough flax for flax twine. Flax twine is a really important material, and then multiple flax twine gets you, we'll get you the whole shebang. We'll get you linens. I'll have you guys decide on water adjacency. My pit kiln is firing up the watering can, just in case, either way. While I am waiting for things to cook, maybe I make another clay mold of something. And then I'll run over these flax seeds to the farm. So what other molds would be useful? So I got our anvil mold. Lamellay, yeah, I'm going to do some of these molds. So these are armor molds, and probably my first armor is going to be lamellar armor. So I do some of these as they don't require leather. They just require hide. And I'm definitely going to get hide way before I get leather. I'll probably make 3 of these molds and fire all 3. Oops. That's 1. Hashimoto, thank you for the resub. And Vinegar, thanks for the sub. Now, I was doing this in blue clay. I just ran out of blue clay. Where was my blue clay around here? Peat, copper. I know there's blue clay, like, right where the base is. Okay, yeah, I guess I'm running back to the base. That's fine. It allows me to plant my flax. So yeah, the proximity irrigation for water maxes at 75%. Which means that unless you have rainwater, because rainwater, correct me if I'm wrong, but rainwater will allow you to go above the 75%. But unless you have like active rainwater, you're not going to be able to irrigate your farms without manual input beyond 75%. With that said, like a 75% is still pretty good. That's still cutting down your grow time by 75%. You can think of it that way. So, although it could be better, you could also just plant like 25% more crops and break even without any manual input. There's a lot of things in this game that become labor intensive if you commit to it. Like animal husbandry or animal domestication, I should call it. You know, things like that. And if you don't, want to have like tons and tons of extra work, you can just be like, yeah, I'm not about that, and go the cheaper route of doing things like less expensively, that are just easier but like slightly less efficient. And there's not a lot of penalty doing it that way, you know, as a sandbox game. All right, I can't jump super far. So what we're doing here is I'm having each one have proximity. So instead of the single one in the middle, we'll do a 4 water system like this. And that should keep me from having to water constantly. And this isn't even as efficient as it could be. So maybe I do it more efficiently. I don't have I won't go with a 5x5. I'll go with like a 6x6 or something, so that we can have them spaced out and taking advantage of the extra moisture. So this would be the layout of my farm, where when those holes are filled with water, every single plot is 1 tile adjacent to a water source. And it will require a lot less constant maintenance on my part to manage it. Now, the other thing I'm going to want to do is to turn every single farm tile from soil to farmland, because if you don't, bunnies will spawn where it is light and where there's like grass. So if I didn't rake every single other spot out, we could have a situation where bunnies just like legit spawn. Wow, there's already grass here. Bunnies will spawn up here and then eat all my crops. So that's another thing to be thinking about. And then I'll run back and make more armor molds and eat my porridge because I'm hungry as hell. Character's stomach is like inside out. So it looks like we'll do water adjacency. The scale's tipped right at the end there. This looks a little weird, because farm block tiles aren't a complete block. These will eventually be replaced down here with stone, once I have more stone available. And I'll plant this spelt here. A lot of flowers. Oh, it's raining again. Uncommon rain? Nah. These are late April showers coming in May. Oh, don't forget the clay? Yeah, I forgot the clay, didn't I, Shona? I'm really hungry, though. My character is about to take damage from being hungry. And I have a nice, rich porridge back home. Or back in the cave. I don't have a home yet. Calling it a home is an insult to homes. I know what I have. I know how small it is. Yep, okay, I'm taking damage. Is there any berries around here? I could eat cooked cattail, but I don't have a fire around here. Berry bushes! Okay, I'm just gonna dig up clay real quick and then run back to my porridge. Sad tuba noises. So it's really easy to fill your satiety meter, right? Like to eat. It's much harder in this game to heal. If you're fully wounded, like let's say you're on the brink of death, it takes you a very long time to heal back to full without medical intervention. So it's one of those things like, you shouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. Oh, empty bush. Where you get hungry and take damage, because I'm not going to be able to fulfill that health for a bit. It's fine, you know, it's hunger pangs. I get it. But it's sloppy. What's with the sad tutor noises? So I'm so hungry I'm taking damage, and my dude is going, oh god! Like, you know, because life sucks for him right now. Okay, food. Where's my bowl? Boom. Boom. Double porridge. I don't know what I'm going to eat next. I could do another porridge with berries, I guess. But it's going to be a much smaller porridge. A poor porridge. Well, it's just the same size. It's just one serving. Okay, back to what I was doing. The armor. So I'll describe the armor system a little bit. Armor comes in multiple classes, depending on the material that you use. Starting at armor class 1, and then working itself up to steel armor, which is armor class 5. And then enemy attacks have kind of the same thing, where they have attack tiers 1 through 4? Or 5? No, 1 through 5. And if your armor class is lower than the enemy's attack, your armor's relatively ineffective. I mention this because if we are going to be like mining and cave diving, not diving like swimming diving, but cave spelunking, we're going to need armor that can withstand some, you know, some hits. Because if we don't have some half-decent armor, we're going to get absolutely wrecked by things. So, I mentioned that because I would say, generally speaking, I don't find, or at least my personal opinion, I don't find armor class 1 to be particularly useful. You don't have to go... Most of the surface drifters that like attack me are attack tier 0 or 1, but even the mountain goats are attack tier 2. So if you're running around with armor tier 1 and you get like headbutted by a mountain goat, it's going to hurt pretty hard. So I generally skip armor tier 1s entirely because it's a poor investment of resources that you're not going to get back. Especially if you make metal tier 1 armor. Like, dear lord, don't do that. Because it's costly, time-consuming, and ultimately pretty worthless. Oh, speaking of drifters, here's one trying to murder me now. So as you can see, looking at him, it says damage tier 0. So if I had a tier 1... God, I'm down to like a pick. If I had a tier 1 armor, you know, his damage to me would be heavily mitigated. Come on, let me skin you. It's weird to think of him as skinning. What did I broke my spear? I should make another one. And my knife is almost broken too, so I'll make a knife blade as well. So the molds that I'm putting down are for probably some version of bronze armor to start with. I don't think I'm going to consider going anything less than bronze for armor as a result. And there's different types of armor, and there's different mitigations Generally speaking, the more armored you are, the tankier you are, but the slower you move and the hungrier you get. This is, of course, a massive generalization, but that's like more or less true. So if we are, if I'm armoring myself up, I'm gonna also be a lot more hungry as I like walk around and have a higher caloric need from wearing armor. So it's again, it's very useful to be working on agriculture because of the calorie need of just like wearing armor. You may have just noticed that I broke my knife, but because I had an extra knife in my backpack, it just like hot swapped into the knife slot when I broke it, which is a really nice feature. I don't have to go digging around in my inventory. It's especially nice when you're like fighting with a sword and you have a spare sword, or like digging with a pick and you have a spare pick, because then you're like mid-swing and you just keep swinging like nothing happened. It's glorious. I love when it works that way. All right, so I am flat out of sticks, but here is 3 armor molds. So once we're like healthily in the Bronze Age, I can start using those armor molds to make myself armor. Thank you for tuning in to Vintage Story, which originally streamed live on Twitch November 9th. If you have any questions for me, please let me know in the comments below. But if you're looking to provide feedback, I'm not looking for backseating for this series. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to keep this series going, make sure to vote for it when it comes up in the polls. The best way to be informed is to join Discord. A link can be found in the description of this video or at Rhadamant.com. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell.